Being transgender is a constant battle for acceptance, safety, and equal rights. Today, I'm honored to be joined by the inspiring and courageous couple, Rhea and Robyn Morningstar. Their powerful story transcends labels and societal expectations as they navigate the complexities of Rhea's journey and coming out as a transgender woman and the evolution of their relationship. In addition to their personal story, Rhea's incredible activism work strives to raise awareness, fight for transgender rights, and create a more inclusive and accepting society. So join us today as we explore this remarkable journey and learn about the resilience, understanding, and unwavering love that defines their bond. Here we go! Rhea, Robyn, I am excited to have you both here. I want to jump right into this topic because I think it's all about the love, and I think that people need to understand that love is love and nothing else. So let's start at the very beginning. How did you two meet, and like, what aspects of your personalities made you feel connected? Rhea, start out with that.
Well, we actually met over the internet because when we met, I was still living in my home state of Washington, and she was down in Florida. And so we connected on poetry uh, mainly. Once we met, we began to email each other and talk on the phone a lot and send each other poems back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was very, very poetic, very passionate. And and then we began to fly back and forth. Uh, and then eventually I was living down in Florida for a little bit, and then we ended up here.
Rhea, Robyn, what kind of poetry do you like?
Oh, but for me though, I was attracted. I was already a freelance journalist at the time, and I we actually met in a Yahoo chat room,
Mm-hmm.
and I was attracted to her because I could tell that she was intelligent and witty, and so when we started instant messaging, I could tell that she could write well, and
Okay.
then that was attractive to me as a writer, and so that yeah, and then so it was the intelligence, the wit, and
Mm-hmm. And the poetry.
writing, yeah, and then so yeah, because I I don't know, I'm very well read, and so just having that kind of exchange back and forth, writing our own poetry to each other, but then also sharing poems, of
Yeah.
course, we'd fall into the romantics, of sharing sappy stuff from the 1800s, too,
Let
back and
me
forth.
let me ask you this then. So, like, before Rhea came out as transgender, like, did you notice any signs or have any like conversations that hinted at like her true identity?
Not about her being transgender. I
Okay.
saw signs of her being effeminate. And over the years, I would say things like, "Are you sure you're not gay? Are you sure you're not gay?" And I definitely asked that because when I was living in Orlando, I used to be like new wave, and when I was 15, the drinking age was 19, and I would go to these new wave clubs with all like gay friends, and um, I yeah, so and I'm bisexual, and so I had like my gaydar was going off kind of thing, and
Uh-huh.
uh, and I was like, "Are you sure?" And I had a boyfriend then who I would go to the bars with, and then all of a sudden, he broke up with me and
Mm.
started going out with one of my gay friends, and I was like, "It better not happen to me again."
So
um,
that
yeah.
this is an interesting love story. So I guess like Rhea, like what were your fears and concerns about like coming out to Robin, and like how did you prepare for that conversation?
Well, it's I guess for all of us, those of us that wait so long to come out.
Hmm.
Uh, I had started to come out when I was 21, and it didn't go so well. And then just looking back into childhood, because there was a lot of abuse and bullying and stuff that happened, and from a divorced family, raised religious in a conservative family, just a lot of different factors. And plus, a time I didn't even understand fully. And I didn't begin to understand fully until my early 20s. But with the bad experience that happened to me, that kind of forced me to kind of mask, and repress my identity. And I guess just as I grew older, knowing who I was and knowing how I felt, I just kind of started to believe I just would never get to come out. And I didn't really understand what that would mean. And honestly, I think I had to really work through a lot of internalized transphobia.
Okay.
Being born in '72 and all of the images of transgender people, for the most part, that I remember seeing were stereotypical or negative, or and it just it made it hard for me to accept myself. And then throughout the years, the dysphoria would come in waves. And the reason why I did finally come out is the dysphoria was hit me really hard for a while, for over a month, and it was just getting heavier and heavier, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. There was no way I could contain it. And
Who was
so
the
I
first
had
person you
to,
came out to?
to her. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And what
yeah.
was your thinking like that? Like, how did that happen?
I was struggling to tell her, and the fear, of course, always is rejection. Um, that it would be too much for her, and also knowing her history of having boyfriends in the past who had come out and all that, and also just over the years her asking me like that, I guess I just felt like it might be too much for her, and I
Yeah.
didn't know. And I didn't fully know, like, I didn't understand what transition would mean for me. I had a lot of misconceptions of it for a long time.
Yeah.
I thought, do I have to like instantly get surgery because I'm transgender? Like, I didn't understand it,
Yeah.
which is kind of mixed in with that
Let me ask you a question.
internalized transphobia.
How did you educate yourself then and know that, the things that you needed to do and the surgeries and all the things that go into learning about being transgender?
Well, I went to the website GLAAD,
Mhm.
GLAAD, and they have a lot of good resources. And then, of course, I was starting to talk to my transgender friends, on Twitter and other social medias. I didn't really know anybody locally at the time. And that was beginning to help a little bit. But I guess just really once I came out, I made a promise to myself and to Robyn that I would just take it slow, and that I would just sort of, that I wasn't going to just accelerate forward. So I didn't even start hormones until about 8 months in,
Okay.
8 or 9 months in, I guess.
So what were the
Well,
biggest
maybe
challenges
longer.
then for your transition? What were the biggest challenges for the transition? Was it losing friends, finding new community? What was it?
Um, I probably just, I don't know. I mean, socially transitioning was first,
Hmm.
just kind of beginning to just really just relax into being myself, both in just my um, mannerisms and clothing, whatever, just things that made me feel more comfortable. Realizing or just understanding some of the key triggers of my dysphoria, and beginning to work on finally, doing the right healing or the right adjustments to help me um, to feel better about my reflection, to feel better about myself and my body image and everything else that comes along with being transgender.
Yeah.
Um, and
Your parents.
yeah, I mean, like, I guess maybe in that my parents, I know they love me. I know that for sure, but they don't accept uh, me for who I am. Well, my dad hasn't actually responded to me yet at this point, but he historically has
How long
been
has
a
it
bad
been?
communicator. Well, I spoke to my mom maybe 3 months or so after I came out, and my younger sister, and their response was to say that, I'll always be a son or a brother, and they'll always know me as that, and as my previous name, the name I was given at birth, and that they would never see me otherwise. Essentially, that they love me, but they would always just see me as that. So they just sort of thought of it as like a phase or a trend, or or whatever. They didn't accept, and so even talking to my mom about the traumatic experience when I was 21, she just brushed that off.
We were not together then, I just want to say.
Well, yeah, no, that experience when I was 21 was years before we met. But
Right. And you're saying that your dad still hasn't talked to you about
yeah, no,
your
he accidentally called me once, and chuckled and said, "Oh, sorry, I was trying to call somebody else. Maybe I'll call you." And this is after I've already tried. I've sent. We don't have a great relationship, anyways.
Right.
It's been a rocky relationship since his second wife was the one that was incredibly abusive towards me, and he didn't protect me, basically. His third wife is wonderful, but yeah, that's kind of it. So there's a lot of issues, with my anger at him for years because he didn't protect me from her, and it was pretty bad. And some of it did definitely have to do, as I've looked back. After I came out, there was a lot of things I'd repressed, really, just a lot of things that I had put away to kind of protect me. But when you repress, a part of yourself, whether you're gay or transgender or whatever, when you repress a part of yourself, it represses other parts of your psyche and personality as well that affect you in other ways, which is why it feels so liberating, when you finally acknowledge and accept who you are. But some memories kept flooding in, and I began to understand better the abuse that I went through, and then also the bullying I experienced in Catholic school as well.
Let me ask Robin a question.
Sure.
Robin, like how does your view of love change since the two of you have gotten together from the beginning until your transition and everything up till now?
Rhea, from the very start, has been wonderful and loving and is my soulmate. And we have been through hell together. I have a rare genetic illness, and that's not why I love her, but we've just been through so much. And I like that whole thing, even about, are you gay? That's my own abandonment issues from trauma. That's a trauma response. And I just want to say, like, the question that I asked her was just basically, do you still love me? And she said yes. And I was like, are you still attracted to me? And yes. And so my main thing was like, well, we're going to figure this out because you're the love of my life. So there really isn't a change in love, like, because the way I view her is still the same. She's still the same person. Just the wrapping is changing a little bit, but the soul is still the same. It's no different to me.
I think that is absolutely beautiful. I really do. Like, what is as far as like societal changes or anything? What's changed for you, if anything?
Well, I have to say, especially at the beginning, like I felt almost like I've always been like this with our kids because we do have kids, and our oldest daughter, by the way, has been amazing and wonderful and extremely supportive. And the other ones are on the West Coast, so they haven't really been around, but it's I feel very protective. And I first was very much like I would go everywhere, shopping and helping out and like wanting to make sure nobody messed with her because I was like, I will whip their ass, and don't but I feel anxious and I feel scared. I don't want anyone to hurt her, and so I think during that, when she talked about this social transition, it was different. You know, my daughter has a new fiance, our daughter. And when I was meeting like his parents, we were over there and I didn't know how to say, you know, well, this is, you know, she's transgender. I felt awkward, you know. So that was different for me, you know. Like that was different, but we got through it and they were great. They were like, "Oh, hey," you know.
Yeah, they were very accepting. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
luckily my daughter's ex family would have been like, "I rebuke you, Satan," you know. They're
So
yeah.
that you went on, and so you protected Rhea, and your love grew, and somehow
Yeah.
Rhea, you became an activist for trans rights. And like, how did that? What triggered that? What made you get into being an activist?
Well, I've always
Very much.
I've always been passionate about, social justice and environmental justice, etc. So I've been involved off and on in different things, but I guess,
Poor People's Campaign, Black Lives Matter,
yeah, anti-corruption,
Okay.
Anti-war.
um, I guess because it just became so personal, coming out in this time with this time we're living in, with like this year, there's far more than twice as many anti-trans bills being put forward, and then all the rhetoric. It's interesting because one of the things that kept me from coming out also is I thought when I came out that I would be the fragile, damaged girl that endured all the abuse and the bullying. And as it turns out, I'm actually stronger than I've ever been. So as much as like these things happening, it doesn't affect me maybe as much as it might be other people. And I'm actually more confident in myself than I've ever been. So when I go out,
very much huge change.
When I go out, I go out as myself, and I walk with my head up high, and I make eye contact with people, and I think that helps a lot because I have to go to the hardware store a lot because we're renovating our basement. So I'm always in Home Depot going up to the people in there, and they know me by now, and some have even like got to where they're asking me some questions because they're curious. I'm like the first, trans they've met.
I think that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the like pivotal moments in your activism or even in your life where you've like that right there makes me smile and makes me happy. It's like, what's a pivotal moment of your activism that's really gotten you go like, oh, I'm glad I'm doing this?
Well, I guess in modern times, we just, the group that I organize with, which is the PA Coalition for Trans Youth, which I wasn't one that started it, I jumped into it. And some wonderful people, and it's a mixture of people who are either transgender, non-binary, or strong allies, usually parents of transgender children. And so we put together a Trans Day Visibility Rally that was up here in Harrisburg on the Capitol steps. This is our Capitol, the Capitol building. And so I did a speech for that, and I did a lot of work helping to organize and, coalition building, bringing people to the event. That felt really good. I've also helped organize a few other rallies before that.
I think your work with the legislation, like trying to help in the background with that.
Yeah.
Like that is something that's really pivotal.
Yeah, we actually are working with a state legislator to put together a bill here in Pennsylvania that would protect trans youth from all these discriminatory laws at the state level. I mean, we need a lot of protections in Pennsylvania, but that's something because of our focus, on protecting trans children because they're much more vulnerable than us trans adults, frankly. And so we want to make sure that they are protected. And so that, feels really good. I really enjoy doing outreach and coalition building.
Yeah.
I love
What do you see
communicating
with
with
the
people.
media? How does the media help you get your message out, get your activism, seen and heard, and just make things change? What kind of media representation is happening for you?
Well, yeah, so far we've certainly we've made connections with different local media. Um, they've been good as far as the ones that we've connected. I definitely have some personal contacts so that they're like, hey, when something's going on, let me know, and they have shown up. And yeah, I mean the coverage has been positive so
Yeah,
far.
awesome.
Um, yeah.
What kind of advice would you give other people who are trans or feel like they're trans, they haven't come out, and they're just not feeling it yet, and they don't know how to move forward? What kind of advice do you have?
Well, I think the best thing to do is to find your community. Just go ask questions. There are support groups. There are good websites, whether it's Trevor Project or GLAD, that you can go to your local LGBTQ community center. Um, but there are online on Discord and then probably Facebook, other places, wherever you're at on social media, you can find groups where you can just go ask the questions because questioning is real. And I think that's the best way is you just go and just ask questions. And
Yeah,
that's what I did. I started asking questions to people who had already been out for a long time, just to kind of get some ideas. But I would say the thing that I didn't quite do and I should have done um, is find a support group where you can ask because the people will answer any questions you need. They'll help you go, process. And of course, the point there is just to help you determine whether or not you're transgender and where you fit underneath that umbrella. Um, and that's pretty much it. It's just they're just
okay,
gonna, yeah. If you're questioning, they're just gonna help you, like at least give you some direction, and then you're gonna find that
right.
you're on that path, kind of on your own. But there's a lot of good support.
I
Um,
think, yeah, so finding your community, talking to the people, and they're going to help you as much or more than anything else. I
mhm.
want to do something fun with you guys for just a second. I want to play a game that we do with everyone called This or That. And I'm going to ask you, they won't be necessarily yes or no questions, but they're going to give you one option or another option. You can pick one or the other. You can't pick neither or both. So let's see how all that works out. Let me ask you the first one. So, which one is more crucial for transgender individuals to thrive? Personal growth or societal change?
Oh, a tough one.
Right?
Um, in a normal time, I would say personal change, but I think maybe societal change right now because things are getting pretty scary,
Yeah.
especially for trans youth. Seeing
Yeah.
what's going on.
Okay. So, which do you believe is more important for the trans community? Legal protections or social acceptance?
Um, I think legal protections are pretty important
Okay.
because even if you're not accepted socially, as long as the law is behind you and protects you, you can find your community
Yeah.
and you can find people you need to.
So, which approach is more effective in breaking down barriers? Activism or education?
Yeah, well, both, but education I think is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. A lot of people that support trans rights are still pretty informed about a lot of different issues.
Yeah. Which medium do you prefer sharing your story? Public speaking or podcast?
Well, I'm working on my public speaking skills. I have a lot to learn. Um, I guess a lot of what I do is on social media with TikTok. That
Hmm.
has helped me to open up and be better at public speaking because it's something I wouldn't have done in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, but it certainly helped a lot.
So now, as a trans activist, like which one do you value more, personal privacy or public visibility?
Public visibility.
Okay. What about grassroots activism or institutional change?
Oh, um, And I have to choose.
I know, right?
Which one's more important to me?
You can't
Yeah.
have one without the other.
I know. Yeah, they're kind of intertwined.
Which one is more critical for like advancing transgender rights?
Well, we need institutional change,
Okay.
but that comes with grassroots activism.
Okay. There we go. We can't just go right to the man. We got to get some grassroots stuff going. Let
Yeah,
me ask you
yeah.
one more. Which mindset do you find more useful when you're facing challenges of being transgender? Optimism or realism?
Optimism.
Yeah, I love that. I think people need to stay in touch with you and be able to ask more questions. I think that's one of the problems I've seen with basically everything in this world is people don't ask enough questions and they may be curious but not get out there. So they can find you on TikTok at Rhea Morningstar or Rhea.Morningstar. And then Robin, I believe you've got some of your photography up, right? At your
Yes.
Instagram at morning_reveries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And if there are any spouses out there who their partner has come out, and if they contact me and they have any questions, they can contact me as well. Because I would just want to add, I don't know if I could add something real quickly. I just want to say that ever since Rhea came out, like I can see the absolute joy, like there's a transcendent joy that I didn't realize was missing for 20 years. And my heart breaks that it took that long for her to come out to me now. And I feel sad. But I can even see when I look back at pictures, like sort of the difference, sort of like a disconnect. And now, like she really does have so much more confidence. And I don't know, I'm so happy for her. And at the end of the day, even if she had just flat out said to me, you know what, we can't be together, who would I be to stop her from having an authentic life? Who is anybody? And we now have a deeper relationship, and which is amazing because we already did. So it's just getting better.
I think just watching you on screen here, what I've seen, like the relationship is awesome. Like there was a love you can feel, So I want to thank you both for being on. Thank you for the information, for being
Thank you.
open, and hopefully we're going to change some minds. Okay.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the future.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.